Hey guys, so I thought for today's video I might try something a little bit different. Now, I've talked about the idea of de-Googling on this channel before, the idea of just reducing our reliance on Google services. Now, there's various different reasons why one might want to take a step back from Google, and I'm not going to go into those reasons in this video. I might sort of do a video further on down the road talking about that, but I think you can guess from the word that I use, reliance, there as where I'm coming from in regards to this equation. But when it comes to sort of the values of this channel, I tend to just like to talk a little bit about my perspective, my opinion on things, and stuff that I've discovered and all that kind of stuff. And really just sort of allow you guys to sort of think for yourselves, and I hope that sort of comes through in a lot of my videos. I never want to be that person to tell you how to think or tell you what to do, but really just present you with some options that you may or may not necessarily be aware of. So I thought, in terms of de-Googling on the mobile platforms, specifically Android, it seems a little bit more difficult than it might be on Linux-based operating systems. So I thought that I might take a shot at the F-Droid challenge. Now, I don't know if this is a real thing. In fact, I doubt it. But the idea of not using any Google services whatsoever on your mobile phone and just seeing what you can make of the F-Droid App Store and the various stuff that the F-Droid App Store can provide. So I decided to completely factory reset my phone today, and not even bother even signing in to Google on on first boot. And you can actually skip signing into any Google service whatsoever. Now, of course, my email account is not with Gmail, so that puts me ahead. And I'm not going to use any of the YouTube apps because, to be honest, using them through the PC using them through my desktop PC is what I tend to do naturally anyway. So in certain applications, I'm not going to necessarily miss it, and I don't need anything that requires me to sign into the Google services off the bat. So today I'm just going to go through some of the application choices that I made and why I made them and all that kind of business. So as you can see here, I have the basic background wallpaper and sort of the desktop, if you will, of my phone screen, and I've got some of the applications there. Some of them I've left as default because whereas there are alternatives in the F-Droid App Store. I'm going to try and keep it to a degree of familiarity there for the sake of actually keeping my phone as usable and comfortable as possible. But none of these services require me to sign in to Google or anything like that. So as you can see here, I've got Notepad, Feeder, Slim Social for Twitter, that's not there, and OSM, which is Open Street Maps. So what I can actually do is go into through the App Store there, but I'll just cover these ones first. Notepad is just a basic Notepad application. When I just need to make a note of something, it's just nice to have something there on the desktop that I can touch and then just pull up and write down a note. Incredibly useful. There are like a dozen apps on the F-Droid App Store that do this. I just picked this one because it's just one that feels just a little bit more intuitive than the rest of them, but to be honest, there are a handful of good note-taking applications there, and all I want it to do is just take notes locally. I don't need anything to sync to the cloud. If a note is that important, I'll just copy it across to my desktop when I need to, but it's really just something that's light and easy to use. Feeder is an RSS reader. Now, I've been trying to reduce the amount of feeds in general, in terms of our information diet, as it were, because I do kind of feel that it's just very easy, especially in the mobile space, that you can just overload yourself with information. And I think one of the negative side effects of that is, while overexposing yourself to information means that you're less likely to take any of it in. And I always find that one of the things I like about books is because they are such longer, because you need to be more engaged in reading them, you're actually more, or at least I feel that I'm actually taking in more information, especially when the author is given the space to actually explain a lot more of the information that they're providing there. And long form content like written media, I just find that it, for me at least personally, helps me to absorb a lot more information than short bullets of information like tweets or like a lot of stuff that you find in RSS feeds. Now, when it comes to things like tech news and stuff that I really specifically want to be on the pulse of, then then I'll put in an RSS feed into the feed reader, but not like any website that updates too often, because I just don't want to be flooded with information. Just something that's a nice measurable amount, or a nice digestible amount of information going through my feed as well. And I have considered actually taking the RSS reader off my phone entirely, because it can be such a comfortable distraction when you're looking for something to do, or looking for something just to distract you for a moment. I find myself just going to that feed reader option when I really want to perhaps be more engaged in the environment that I am. But that's just a personal choice there. Slim Social for Twitter. Now this is a nice little application. It is effectively just it's just an application that takes you straight into the Twitter website. It's a Twitter web app outright. I haven't found a way to get the notifications to work on it, but to be honest, I don't really want notifications on Twitter anyway. So whenever I want to check for any direct messages or anything else, to be honest, Twitter the direct messages is the only thing I use Twitter for anyway. Otherwise, I'd completely close my account, which is one of the reasons why it's privated, is because you don't. If I'm only using it for direct messaging, then I don't need it for status updates or anything like that. So, and one of the things I do actually notice about the Slim Social for Twitter client is that it actually uses significantly less battery. So, you do have significantly less customization options with it, but it's Twitter, who cares? So, the Slim Social actually is a really good application, whether or not as an alternative to what's available in the Play Store as well. So, I do actually recommend that one. OpenStreetMaps. This is really good because it actually allows you to download them. So if you're going on a trip to somewhere where you're not sure about the internet connectivity, you can actually download maps of where you're going in advance. And I actually found that not only loads up faster, but also more reliably, and is just generally, I find it better than Google Maps. Now, Google Maps does allow you to download specific areas of maps to use offline, but OpenStreetMap, I just feel that it's more designed to have more. It's designed to have maps downloaded and it's designed, and the whole application is designed to work around that. So it's significantly less reliant on being connected to the internet, which is something that I think is really good. So anyway, this is my app screen. There aren't too many, and I no doubt will install more over time. Some of these that I couldn't disable, but you may notice, and if I scroll down to the next page, I've actually disabled a lot of the Google applications. I disabled Gmail, I disabled the Play Store. So what have I got here? I've got DAV Droid, and I am using the standard Android email client now, because I use Postio, which I do actually recommend. That's a really good email service. They use all open source software. They treat their employees really, really well, and they're an environmentally friendly organization. There's more information about that on their website. You do have to pay €1 a month, which isn't really that much considering what you get out of it, and you do actually have a support line as well, and it is actually really quite nice that if you ever get into trouble with your email, that you can actually reach out for help. So that's something that I really do appreciate with Postio, but I think it's just worth the €1 a month if you just want to support open source applications in a more serious environment. They do have a lot of encryption options as well, if that's your jam. So I use DAV Droid because it synchronizes your contacts and your calendar with Postio as well. It's not an essential for me. I'm just happy to use an offline calendar or an offline or to copy my contacts across. It's really not that great shakes. I'm not meeting dozens of people a day and need to keep my contacts synced. I have a small circle of friends that I really keep in touch with using email and phone and all that kind of stuff. But if it's there, I'll use it, and it is nice just to be able to sync up my my calendar, my contacts, and of course my email with IMAP on the email client. So it is a bit of a faff to set up, but thank God Postio has good documentation for it. That's all I'll say. Obviously, I got the F-Droid store there. Firefox Claw. Basically, what it does, it's not actually available directly through the F-Droid store. It actually, what you get in the F-Droid store is like a downloader and updater, and then it goes to the Firefox website and then downloads Firefox Claw and then sets it up for you. I really like it. It's a nice small browser from obviously Mozilla Firefox team, and I can't say anything wrong with it, actually. It's designed to be lightweight and more privacy respecting, and I really would like to see them bring out a desktop version, but I haven't really heard anything in the works about that. KeePass Droid. This is so that I can access my password database. Now, I don't keep the password database on the phone, but if I need to sign into any services, I will then, sort of copy the file across and then remove it or use it on a USB. And that way, everything logged in, it stays logged in, but there's no reliance on online services, and I'm not storing the passwords with my phone either. So what I'll do is I'll have like a USB thing like this, and I'll plug it into the phone whenever I need to log in, and I'll open up the database and find the right password. It's a little bit more convoluted than most password managers, but to be honest, considering how few things I actually log into on the mobile platform, it's fine, and it is nice. It's nice and secure. But there's only one or two services like email, for example, that I'll sign into, and once you've saved the login, you're pretty much all good. Now, the FM radio actually came with the phone, and for some reason you can't get rid of it. I've never used it at all. I'm going to use the standard messaging app. Obviously, I talked about the notepad. That gallery there is the standard gallery app for my Android phone as well. Orbot and Orfox. I have noticed that Orbot, which is what connects you to the connects you to the Tor network, is actually made some significant improvements since the last time I used it. I'm not a big user of Tor, but I am no longer going to be using my VPN because of the App Store. It requires an app from the Google Play Store. If I do feel that I actually need it, then I'll pull down the package file itself separately, so you don't necessarily need the App Store to go out and get it. But I'm just going to see if Orbot is going to be able to work for me in that regard. To be honest, in the overwhelming majority of cases, I use like Wi-Fi connections that I am already reasonably comfortable with. I don't connect to Starbucks Wi-Fi or anything like that. In fact, I don't even know where the nearest Starbucks is. So I don't go around connecting to random Wi-Fi networks. So I'm not going to be too concerned about not having my VPN with me at the moment. If I do get a little bit concerned, I do have other options outside of the Play Store, but I'm just going to see where it takes me with this. Then I've got Red Moon. Red Moon is incredibly important and useful. It's one of those. It's like basically Redshift on for Android. It during the times that you set, or you can have it set to like daylight hours or whatever, it puts the red glow on the screen, so that it means that it doesn't keep you up all hours of the night, or if like the last thing you do before go to bed is check your phone, and that blue light doesn't just sort of push you awake or whatever. It's nice to have that nice soothing red glow in the later hours of the day, so that it doesn't sort of trick your brain into thinking that it's earlier than it is. Privacy browser. This is a great little privacy browser tool as well, also all available in the F-Droid store, of course. What I really like about Privacy Browser is that it turns off JavaScript by default. And if you do come across a website that does require JavaScript, there's just a little icon in the top right-hand corner. You just pop that, and you then have JavaScript. Interestingly enough, when it comes to browsing the mobile web, a lot of the mobile versions of most websites actually don't require JavaScript. I'm actually quite surprised how much of the web that I can browse not using JavaScript. So Privacy Browser, that's nice, and I'm using that if I'm not if I'm not browsing through Tor. So it's kind of almost my go-to default browser, just because it doesn't have JavaScript, so it makes things nice and fast and a little bit safer, but also it gives me that flexibility that if I do come across a website that is broken by not being able to use JavaScript, I can just fix that in a moment's notice. I've got Sand, or S-And, just a very basic compass application. To be honest, I find Compass is a really useful tool for navigation, especially out here in the sticks, where if you just want to go in a general direction to find a place, compasses are just really quite useful. I know nowadays with like location settings and OpenStreetMaps and all that kind of stuff, a lot of people might consider the idea of a compass to be redundant, because you've just got a map that plots you on it specifically where you are at that given time really easily. That many people might think that makes the compass redundant, but sometimes if I just want to make sure that I'm heading in the right direction, being able just to flip open a compass and just check is really quite useful. Also doesn't require you to turn location on, because the orientation of the phone is, for some reason, it's something that's readily available information without permissions needed, which some people consider a little bit worrying. But yeah, like I say, being able just to pull out a compass and check that I'm not heading in the opposite direction to which I intend is, just a little bit useful. I use that from time to time. Just nice, simple, nothing fancy there. And I do kind of appreciate apps that do one thing and one thing well. The only other thing that I think is Trackbook. Trackbook isn't something I use very often, but it's very useful to have when I do. Basically, if you're in a place where you're not entirely sure of the lay of the land, what you can do is you can turn Trackbook on, and it draws a line where you go from where you turn it on. So most people might use it to find their way back to a car in a particularly large car park, so they don't have to remember where they parked it. But also if you're on like a nature trail or something like that, you always know the way that you came. So in the worst case scenario, you can backtrack using this app because it draws your entire journey behind you, which I think is really quite useful. And I'm really, I really quite appreciate the very simple navigation apps as well as the ones that are a bit more, full featured, like OpenStreetMaps. It's just nice to have a few navigation tools, because to me that's what one of my primary uses of my mobile phone is that when I travel, it's usually usually I load on like maybe a couple of podcasts or TV shows, which I can obviously still do with F-Droid, and then just being able to have like a map or some kind of navigation tools just to make sure that I don't get lost. Other than that, I probably wouldn't even need a phone really, moreover anything else. I'd probably just have like a Nokia 3310. I think I've still got my Nokia 3310 lying around, and truth be told, I've given some consideration to picking it up again, because I kind of like a lot. Well, I'll probably leave that for another video, but I often feel that smartphones can sort of increase our reliance on technology and increase our reliance on easy solutions, while our skills for sort of navigating the real world without a smartphone become sort of lost to the sands of time. So I think that's about it for me today. But yeah, I'm going to be taking the F-Droid challenge, and probably in about a month's time, I'm going to be making another video telling you about how I got on and whether or not I decided that it was a living hell and that I had to go back to Google, or whether or not it's just as easy just as easy to use my phone without Google as it is with Google. I was looking around at some of the other open source operating systems available for mobile, but because I don't have a particularly well-known model of phone, and I ain't going to go out and spend 300, 400, 500 quid on a Galaxy or a Pixel or anything like that. As far as I'm concerned, that's way too much to spend on a phone. My Eula phone cost me like 130 quid, and yeah, there might not be many Copperhead OS, type distributions that are compatible with it, but I'm not going to go out and spend an extra like 300 or 400 quid just so that I can have an open source operating system. It's still Linux based. You don't need to sign in to Google services to make the most of it, and hopefully we're going to see how well I do on a de-Googlified Android phone. So let me know your guys' thoughts down in the comments section below, of course. Have any of you guys attempted this as well? Truth be told, it doesn't seem like too much of a feat. The only applications I think I'm really going to miss are Discord. And I'll just check that on the desktop, or I'll log in through the website if I have to. But truth be told, Discord, it's hardly going to break my phone experience if I'm not able to access my Discord stuff. It's not a service that I'm particularly attached to, but it's a service that a lot of people I know use, and it's not attached to one of the big tech giants. So I do actually quite like Discord for those purposes, but I'll get by without it, I reckon. So, yeah, that's about it from me today. Thank you very much for watching. Let me know your thoughts, of course, down in the comment section below. I always enjoy hearing those. And until next time, I've been Chris Ware, and you've been awesome. Take care now.